Welcome to the Psych Gym. I'm your trainer, Vanessa Perry, a former mental health therapist turned intuitive counselor. Much like a physical gym, in this space, we'll aim to target specific psychological muscles and train them to be stronger. I'm so glad you are joining this gym. Let's hit the weights. Hello. Welcome back to the Psych Gym. We are here today talking about a thing. We are going to talk about a thing that might make you feel uncomfortable, but that's what we do here, right? That's what the Psych Gym is all about. We gotta work those muscles, and it's painful at first sometimes, but that's how they get stronger, right? You ready? Are you a team player, or are you just afraid to do things alone? Ugh. Listen, I'm not here to throw shade, because I've asked myself this question more than one time, and you'll hear later the story that I feel like was one of the turning points for this. It sounds simple, but it also cuts through a lot of surface level noise. Today we're going to break it down. What does it really mean to be a team player? What's the difference between collaboration and dependency? And how can we tell the difference in ourselves? So let's go. Let's go. Let's start with the basics. A team player is one of those phrases that sounds really good, like universally, right? Who doesn't want to be seen as collaborative, supportive, easy to work with, somebody who really cares about the common goals, right? It's what we put on resumes, what managers love, what we reward in society. Team, right? Community. But here's the thing. Being a team player means contributing to something bigger than yourself while still bringing your individual strength to the table. It is not supposed to mean hiding behind the group, shrinking your voice, or using we as a way to avoid saying I, which is, listen, I mean, I get it. Like, I'm constantly telling people to use we statements instead of I statements because it's, um, you know, it can be off putting sometimes when people are hearing that. However, when it comes to this, we are, when we are using we to avoid having to stand out and say I, not a good thing. But this is where the line gets blurry, because sometimes we do say, I just work better in a group. But the truth behind that might be that we're scared of owning the spotlight. We're scared of messing up, failing, or being seen doing something on our own. Right? My God. Right. So I'm a hockey player. So the game moves fairly quickly. So you're working on instinct and what you know how to do. And most of the time, I'm pretty good with that, right? Like I'm pretty good with that. And when I screw up, I'm like, you got to keep going because like you're still in the game. But put me in a shootout situation and forget it. I don't know how to do anything. I'm freaking out. Right, the spotlight is right there. I want to be in the team. I want to have other people to bounce the puck to off of whatever. Right, like I could never be a goalie, right? Because I feel like that is too spotlighty. I understand this concept, right? Like I've definitely been in this in many times in my life. So let's be real. Sometimes what looks like teamwork is really just fear in disguise. We're afraid of failing. We're afraid of responsibility. We're afraid of isolation and being alone. The fear of being the only one accountable if something does not work. Here's a question to sit with. If no one else were available to help you, would you still go after that idea? Would you still launch the business, take the trip, start the podcast? Would you? If nobody else were able to help you, and when I say help, I don't mean moral support, I mean doing it with you, right? If you need somebody to do it with you so it feels safer, that's what we're talking about here. It's not a call out. It's not, again, I'm not trying to throw shade here. It's a call in, because I think a lot of us were raised to believe that if we're doing things by ourselves, it's selfish. and egotistical, and wanting to own the spotlight means that you don't care about other people and you want to be better. There's all kinds of messaging there for sure. And some of it is relevant. We don't need to throw it all away. But in this case, we have to be able to balance that. Sometimes we think that being alone or doing something solo is scary, and we're actually taught to believe that. Right? Like, oh no, you can't do that by yourself. That'll be so hard. And you're like, oh shit, okay, then I'm not going to do it at all. And sometimes we just have this messaging of that's not what good people do. Like, good people do things with other people, or they only participate in community activities, and you don't ever put yourself above the the collective. And I do get that. In a lot of spiritual circles, that definitely happens. But the truth is that being able to stand on your own is a skill, a muscle, right? Like, we're over here muscle building. If you don't work it, you're going to lose it. We have to be able to have that balance of independence and, interdependence. We need to be able to do things on our own and do things with others, because it's a very freeing concept to know that you have trust in yourself and that you can have trust in others. So here's some signs. I'm going to give some signs if you're kind of like, oh my God, am I this kind of person? I don't know that I'm this kind of person. How do I know, Vanessa? Tell me if I am this person. So let's break down some of the signs that maybe you're using the team player thing as a cover for fear. You struggle to make decisions without a consensus. Like, that's a big one. It's okay to get input. And so y'all know I'm a fence rider about so many things, because there is no cut and dried way to attack anything. But if you cannot make a decision without multiple people's input because you don't trust yourself, this is a problem that we have to solve. It's okay to get input, because maybe you're thinking, oh, you know what? I could use a little bit more perspective, because I see myself having tunnel vision right now. I can see myself perhaps not looking at other possibilities. So let me ask other people what they think. But if you're asking people because you are needing to latch on to something that somebody said, this is not what we're going for, right? Or you feel yourself, you had an idea of what you wanted, and it was very easy for somebody to talk you out of it, not even on purpose, but just by bringing their opinion to the table. You switch right over to it because maybe you value that person's opinion, or you think that they're, smarter or more successful. So you just like abandon your own self in order to follow what somebody else says. This is a sign that we're hiding behind other people and we're not really learning how to stand on our own. You also might avoid starting projects unless somebody else is involved. That would, sometimes we're afraid for different reasons. I can totally understand if you are wanting to, so I'll tell you right now, I have pallets in the back of my truck that I want to pull apart, or I wanted to pull apart, so that I could create something in my house. I wanted to create doors for my cube storage so you can't see all the shit that's inside of it. I am not avoiding starting that project because I don't think I can do it. I'm avoiding starting that project because I don't know where I can do it. But I think that that's what would happen for some people. They would get an idea, they'd be very excited about it, and then they'd start to freak out that they can't do it on their own. They can't figure it out. They won't have the resources, they won't have the ability, they won't have the strength, whatever that is, unless somebody else is there. So that is another sign that you're hiding behind teamwork in a way that is not helping you, right? So again, we're not throwing shade by saying you're hiding behind teamwork in a bad way. We're just saying, hey, this is subconsciously probably happening, that your fear is making you value other people's input and involvement in your life too much. Okay, here's one that, my goodness, this was probably the thing that was the biggest deal for me when I started my business and really started to go for it. You feel uncomfortable being seen as the face of something. Lord have mercy. When somebody told me you are your brand, I was like simultaneously thrilled, because I was like, oh, sweet. I don't have to come up with like a catch, whatever, and then just follow it. But then I was terrified. I was like, me? So people are just going to look at me and judge how good I am at things? What? Right? I'm going to be the face of my business, and it's funny because you'd think that that would come in right away when you're starting a business. But for me, starting a business was about being relevant in my child's life, being there for her, being able to wake up when I wanted to and see the amount of clients that I felt like was good for me so that I could be good at what I was doing and not burn out. There were lots of different reasons why I created the business. And none of them had anything to do with my ego in any way. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm going to be the best intuitive counselor anybody's ever seen. It was kind of the opposite. I was like, what am I doing? What is this? First of all, nobody's going to know what the hell you're talking about. But now you're going to show up like, oh God, it's just dipping back into that energy is very easy to find that anxiety. I was uncomfortable being the face, but I had to push through that because I really, really needed to have the autonomy. I had been working contracts that I had a lot of autonomy with, but I still wasn't the brand, and I still wasn't the face of it. I will say this though, one of the ways that I was able to shift into that was I was asked to do like, I guess, connectivity chats with another one of the therapists at the organization I was working for, or not working for, I was contracted with. And we were doing it, we were connected, and I love her so much. I haven't talked to her in a really long time. But it was a way for me to shift into something that was more mine and less Myrtle Beach Counseling Center, or Charleston Counseling Center. And we were being put out there kind of as the face of it. And it was terrifying. Like, I was like, oh my God, these people are going to be judging me, and they're going to judge the entire company based on how Lindsay and I are showing up in this space. Terrifying. And then I just kept doing it. And then she and I did some spin-off stuff. And I started to get really comfortable with the idea of myself and trusting me and trusting that I am enough and that I am credible just on my own. But I hid behind that agency thing for a very long time. Okay, fourth, you may rely on group validation before taking a risk. I think that kind of goes a little bit with the first one of struggling to make a decision without a consensus. But I think when we talk about taking risks, what can that mean? That can mean going into a new job, a new relationship, moving, things like that. And you may not be able to, again, make that decision unless there's a group that can tell you that it's good. Your friend group, maybe, right? Like, oh, I need my friends. Unless my friends say, I can't do it. Oh, there's a running joke in my family because of the choices that I've made in relationships that there should be a group validation before I get into a relationship. I've grown a lot, so I feel like I've done a very good job of evolving in that space so that I don't need group validation. However, I understand the value of it too. So it's not, again, to crap all over this stuff and say you should never look for input from people. You should never have somebody check you, because that's not true. We do need that. That does help us. But when our basis for doing things is the other person or people's input, we've got to think about what we're not doing for ourselves, how we're not coming at anything from our intuitive and authentic center. And the fifth thing, oh Lord have mercy, you're always looking for a partner instead of exploring independence. Can't do anything by yourself, right? That is pretty clear cut, but I think sometimes people fall into patterns and don't see that that's happening and don't see that that is actually taking away from your own autonomy. So if any of these things sound familiar, again, I can't say it enough. This is not a judgment zone. I have been there. I still go there sometimes, for sure. But self-awareness is everything. You'll know this over and over and over again. All my clients hear it. Like, we have to be aware of what's going on before we apply tools, because we can't apply the wrong tools and expect that to work. So we could either start throwing things at something and fail and fail and fail and fail, or we can take our time and get into self-awareness and do the detective work so that we can apply and sometimes even create the right tools. So here's the good news. You do not have to choose one or the other. The most powerful people in this world are masters of both being teamwork and self reliance. So they know when to collaborate, when to lead. They know when to ask for help, and they know when to say, I've got this. They know how to show up for a team without losing their sense of self. That is very important. Being a team player doesn't mean that you disappear into the group. It means you bring your full self to the table. And being solo doesn't mean you're antisocial or egotistical. It means you're brave enough to carry something on your own, simply put. So I'm going to give you a little quick story. This podcast, this podcast is a personal reflection on this concept in my life. A lot of you know that I co-host a podcast with my high school friend Grace, Freud's Angels. Before that, I had been trying to figure out how to show up professionally, and it was hard and awkward. I was making videos on LinkedIn and doing live videos and interviews on Facebook, but it was usually like a cringe version of me. When I go back and look at some of the solo stuff I did, I'm like, who the hell is that? Right? It was me trying to be something instead of being me. In my interviews, I did a lot of interviews. I did a few interviews with guys in my life because I really wanted to highlight men's mental health, still do. And I was more myself in those places because I got to be myself. It was interactive. And so I learned that I was like, well, you're really awkward when you're by yourself, but you're really like, it's a lot easier when you've got somebody else there. So that was my first inkling. When we started to do the podcast, the Freud's Angels podcast, I got comfortable with just being me. That's when things changed. And being in that space with another intuitive and somebody that I've known since a billion years ago, the person I went on my first road trip with, I understood I started to learn a lot about my own fears, about rejection, about being seen, and about my own self-criticism, because it was so freeing to be in that space. And I thought the contrast of when I'm in a solo space and when I'm in this space is a chasm. And what the hell is that about? So again, me being me and wanting to evolve this soul of mine, I went into it. I went into it head on. Like, what is going on here? Because that is not very empowering in your life. You're not going to be very empowered if you always have to do things with other people because you're afraid of being the face. So the feedback that I would receive about the content, and as I started to branch out a little bit, and as I started to be more brave and be more authentic, it helped me connect more to what the audience needs and get out of my own way. I was focusing so hard on myself in all of these spaces, right? Like, what am I going to sound like? What am I going to look like? What are people going to think? Are people going to hire me? Are they going to think I'm too weird? Blah, 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 right? Like, all about me and my fear, because that's what fear does. My brain wants me to be safe, so it's going to focus on me, of course, and I have to be the one to pause and interrupt that process to be able to focus differently. So I learned, hey, you have these skills and you really are having this like burning desire to tell people about stuff. So why are you making it about you? Make it about them. Give people what it is that they need. Connect to what they need and give it to them. Get out of your own way. I mean, it still comes around and it's still easier for me to show up when I'm conversing with other people. I think just the dynamic of bouncing things off of others is a beautiful thing. And so, again, it's not about one or the other, it's a mastery of both that is super helpful. But now I can show up fairly comfortably alone as well as the collaborations. The collaborations are fun. They're an easy way to relax into not having to hold the entire conversation. And sometimes that's nice. The fear of being alone is often louder than the reality of it. And that's what I've learned. Once I pushed past it, I realized that I can do a lot more than I think I can, and you can realize that how much more powerful and empowered you can actually be if you allow yourself to do that hard thing, right? Freaking work that muscle. Get yourself vulnerable, get yourself out there. Learn how to handle the things that you're afraid of, or they're always going to rule you. So here's a question I'm going to leave with you today. It's the same question I started with. Are you really a team player, or are you just scared to do the thing by yourself? It's okay if the answer is a little of both. It's okay, whatever your answer is, to be honest. It's human. But the next time you catch yourself holding back or waiting for backup or hesitating until somebody else says yes or good idea or anything else that's validating, check in. Ask yourself, am I hiding or am I collaborating? Or am I getting input, but I'm still holding strong with my own check in with myself? I hope that helps. I really feel into this personally, and I feel the empowerment that is created in my life, not just professionally, but just being able to kind of make my own life decisions that make me feel really happy. My life is cultivated based on what I want, and that's why I love it. That's why I'm so happy in it, because I had to take away all of the things that other people were going to say and all of the things that other people were saying, and be able to recenter on myself and not feel so afraid of being my own person. It was hard work. I'm not going to lie to you. And still, again, sometimes I struggle with it, but it's worth it. So I want you to see this as a sign. If you have been putting something off, go, start it, do it. I'm here if you need some help with it, because I do understand it truly. And I have lots of patience, and I have lots of love, and I have lots of ideas. And I like to have fun with it too. I love creating in people's lives. So if that's something that you're interested in, you know how to find me. But otherwise, I'm going to leave you with all of that for today. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and share this if you feel like there's somebody that could use it. But otherwise, I will see you next time. Thank you for letting me be your guide today. Thanks for listening. To learn more about what I do and how to work with me, head to thepsychgym.com to check it out. Keep lifting, y'all. It's worth it.